on the other side of the light. A lion was born without a drop of nobility in his blood. The earth will...
Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
Mufasa is one of the most iconic characters ever created by Disney, first introduced in the 1994 animated film The Lion King. He is the noble king of the Pride Lands, father of Simba, and brother to Scar. From the very beginning of the story, Mufasa is portrayed as a larger-than-life figure, strong, wise, and compassionate. His voice, presence, and majestic appearance symbolize leadership and dignity. Unlike many kings in fictional stories who rule through fear, Mufasa rules with love and balance, ensuring that every creature in the Pride Lands has a place in what he calls the circle of life. This philosophy defines not only his reign but also his character. Mufasa represents justice, harmony, and the natural order, making him a symbol of the ideal leader. At the same time, his story is deeply human in its emotional resonance. He is a father who wants to raise his son with values of responsibility, humility, and courage. Through his life and his tragic death, Mufasa becomes much more than a character. He becomes a moral compass for Simba, for the story, and for the audience. He is not only central to The Lion King, but also a timeless figure in popular culture, representing the themes of wisdom, sacrifice, and legacy. Mufasa's personality is a perfect balance of strength and kindness, qualities that make him both feared and loved in equal measure. Physically, he is an imposing lion with a commanding presence, but what sets him apart is his ability to combine power with compassion. He does not use his strength to dominate others unnecessarily. Instead, he uses it to protect the weak and maintain balance in the Pride Lands. His leadership is rooted in a deep respect for life, which is why he emphasizes the circle of life to Simba. For Mufasa, being a king is not about having the most power, but about being responsible for everyone under his rule. He demonstrates patience and fairness when settling disputes, and he does not hesitate to put himself in danger when his pride or family is threatened. Yet Mufasa is not portrayed as flawless. He can be stern when Simba acts recklessly, reminding him that leadership requires maturity. This mix of warmth and discipline defines his approach as both a king and a father. In the Pride Lands, animals follow him not because they fear him, but because they trust him. That trust is the true foundation of his power. In every scene, Mufasa embodies the qualities of a leader who serves rather than commands, making him an unforgettable symbol of noble kingship. Great thumbs up, let's continue with paragraph 3, 400 words. About Mufasa's role as king of the Pride Lands. King of the Pride Lands. Mufasa's reign as king is depicted as a golden era in the Pride Lands, where harmony and prosperity flourish under his guidance. His role as king is not just symbolic. It involves the active responsibility of maintaining order, justice, and balance in the ecosystem. Unlike tyrants who rule through fear and self-interest, Mufasa embraces the role of a servant leader. He understands that being king is not about personal privilege, but about ensuring the survival and well-being of all creatures. The Pride Lands are shown as a thriving territory filled with life, and that abundance is a reflection of Mufasa's leadership. He protects the hunting grounds, ensures fairness in food distribution, and respects the natural order by teaching that even predators, including lions, are part of a cycle that sustains the land. Mufasa's power lies not only in his physical strength, but in his wisdom and ability to inspire loyalty. Other animals bow to him not out of fear, but because they recognize his fairness and integrity. His rule demonstrates the idea that true leadership comes from responsibility, rather than domination.
Moreover, his kingship is presented as a sacred duty tied to tradition and ancestry, meaning he is not just an individual leader, but part of a long lineage entrusted with maintaining balance in nature. In this way, Mufasa embodies the archetype of the good king, whose reign serves as the moral and political foundation of the story. His leadership contrasts sharply with Scar's desire for power without responsibility, highlighting Mufasa's role as the rightful ruler. Thus, the Pride Lands under his care symbolize order, while Scar's brief reign after Mufasa's death represents chaos. Through this contrast, the story emphasizes that Mufasa is more than a king. She is the embodiment of justice, compassion, and the natural cycle of life. His reign sets the standard against which all future kings, including Simba, are measured. So, perfect thumbs up, let's move to paragraph 4, 400 words about Mufasa's relationship with Sarabi, his queen. Paragraph 4. Mufasa's relationship with Sarabi. Mufasa's bond with Sarabi, his queen, is an essential but often understated part of The Lion King. While the film does not dedicate much screen time to their relationship, the small glimpses we do see highlight a partnership built on mutual respect, love, and shared responsibility. Sarabi is not just a passive queen, she is a strong lioness, the leader of the hunting party, and an advisor to Mufasa. Their relationship is portrayed as balanced, where both partners contribute to the welfare of the pride. Mufasa's strength and authority as king are complemented by Sarabi's wisdom, grace, and practicality. In scenes where they appear together, such as when they watch over Simba, the dynamic is warm and affectionate, showing them as loving parents as well as rulers. Sarabi is also firm when needed, as seen when she scolds Simba for reckless behavior. Mufasa trusts her judgment fully, and this reflects his respect for her role, not just as his mate, but as an equal partner in leadership. Their relationship represents the ideal royal union, one of loyalty, dignity, and shared purpose. Unlike Scar, who views leadership as domination and isolation, Mufasa sees rulership as a collective effort, where his queen's wisdom is valued. This mutual support strengthens their kingdom, making the Pride Land stable and united. After Mufasa's death, Sarabi's strength becomes even more evident. She resists Scar's tyranny and continues to uphold Mufasa's memory, guiding the pride with resilience. This resilience is a reflection of the values that she and Mufasa shared during his lifetime. In many ways, Sarabi ensures that Mufasa's legacy continues even in his absence. Their bond also illustrates to Simba what a loving, responsible partnership looks like. An important lesson he later carries into his relationship with Nala. While Mufasa's role is more prominent in the story, his relationship with Sarabi provides a backdrop of stability and emotional depth, showing that even a powerful king relies on companionship and trust. Together, Mufasa and Sarabi embody the harmony of leadership, family, and duty, proving that true strength in ruling a kingdom does not lie in one figure alone, but in the unity of supportive relationships. Excellent thumbs up. Let's continue with paragraph 5, 400 words. On Mufasa's role as a father and his bond with Simba. Paragraph 5. Mufasa as a father and his bond with Simba, perhaps the most defining aspect of Mufasa's character in The Lion King, is his role as a father. While he is a king to the Pride Lands, to Simba he is first and foremost a parent, both protector and teacher. Mufasa's relationship with Simba is tender, patient, and filled with life lessons that shape Simba's journey throughout the story. From the moment he introduces Simba to the kingdom atop Pride Rock, Mufasa instills in him the sense of responsibility that comes with leadership.
He tells Simba that everything the light touches belongs to their kingdom, but at the same time warns that being king is not about privilege, it is about service and respect for the balance of life. This early lesson highlights Mufasa's deep desire for Simba to grow into a wise and responsible leader rather than a reckless ruler. Mufasa's fatherhood is marked by a balance of warmth and discipline. He allows Simba to explore, play, and be curious, but he also sets boundaries and corrects him when necessary. For example, when Simba recklessly ventures into the elephant graveyard, Mufasa does not simply scold him in anger. Instead, he uses the opportunity to teach an important lesson about bravery and responsibility. He explains that being brave does not mean seeking danger, but knowing when to avoid it. This moment shows Mufasa's nurturing style as a parent. He transforms mistakes into valuable learning experiences rather than punishments. Moreover, Mufasa demonstrates the importance of emotional connection in fatherhood. The scene where he plays with Simba in the grass, rolling around and laughing, shows that he is not only a stern teacher but also a loving and playful dad. This duality, serious mentor and affectionate parent, creates a bond of trust between them. Simba looks up to his father with awe and admiration, seeing him as the perfect role model. This makes Mufasa's eventual death all the more tragic, because Simba not only loses a king, but also his greatest source of love, guidance, and security. In essence, Mufasa's fatherhood is central to the story. His bond with Simba plants the seeds of wisdom that later blossom when Simba reclaims his rightful place as king. Even after death, Mufasa's voice and teachings echo in Simba's heart, guiding him through doubt and fear. This timeless portrayal of fatherhood is one of the reasons Mufasa is remembered as one of Disney's greatest characters. He is not just a leader of the Pride Lands, but a symbol of parental love, wisdom, and sacrifice. Great thumbs up! Let's continue with paragraph 6, 400 words, about Mufasa's relationship with Scar, his jealous brother. # relationship with Scar. The relationship with Scar. The relationship between Mufasa and Scar is one of the most complex and tragic aspects of The Lion King. On the surface, it seems like a typical sibling rivalry, but at its core, it is a battle of philosophies, values, and personalities. Mufasa embodies strength, justice, and selflessness, while Scar represents envy, bitterness, and selfish ambition. As brothers, their relationship is defined less by closeness and more by contrast. Mufasa is the rightful heir and natural leader, admired by all in the Pride Lands, while Scar lives in the shadows, resentful of his position and feeling overlooked. This imbalance fuels Scar's jealousy, creating a tension that ultimately drives the central conflict of the story. From what we see, Mufasa treats Scar with a sense of tolerance, but he is not blind to his brother's flaws. Their interactions reveal that Mufasa is aware of Scar's cunning nature, yet he does not underestimate him. For example, in the original film, Mufasa confronts Scar early on for missing Simba's presentation ceremony, showing both disappointment and authority. This scene highlights the strained nature of their relationship. Mufasa expects loyalty and responsibility, while Scar offers excuses and sarcasm. Despite this tension, Mufasa does not treat Scar with cruelty or open hostility. He maintains his dignity, choosing to uphold his duty as king rather than sink into petty conflict. In many ways, this reflects Mufasa's tragic flaw, his inability to fully recognize the depth of Scar's resentment until it is too late. Scar, on the other hand, views Mufasa not just as a brother but as an obstacle. He envies Mufasa's strength, charm, and position as king, and his jealousy grows worse when Simba is born, pushing him even further down the line of succession.
For Scar, Mufasa represents everything he believes he deserves but cannot attain: power, respect, and love. Their relationship is therefore lopsided. Mufasa sees a brother while Scar sees a rival to be eliminated. This dynamic culminates in betrayal. Scar's act of orchestrating Mufasa's death is not just a murder but a symbolic overthrow of everything Mufasa stands for: justice, balance, and harmony. It is one of the most shocking betrayals in Disney history because it is not simply political but deeply personal. The bond of brotherhood is shattered by greed and envy, leaving an unhealed wound that shapes the rest of the story. Ultimately, Mufasa and Scar's relationship serves as a cautionary tale about envy, ambition, and the destructive nature of unchecked resentment. Alright, thumbs up. Let's continue with paragraph 7, 400 words, on Mufasa's philosophy of the circle of life. Paragraph 7, Mufasa's philosophy of the circle of life. One of the most profound aspects of Mufasa's character is his philosophy of the circle of life. This concept is more than a simple belief. It is the guiding principle of his reign and the moral foundation of the Lion King. Mufasa explains to Simba that every creature, from the smallest antelope to the mightiest lion, plays a role in maintaining the balance of nature. Lions may eat antelope, but when lions die, their bodies nourish the grass that antelope feed upon. This cycle ensures that life is sustained and no species is above or outside of it. By teaching Simba about the circle of life, Mufasa emphasizes humility. Even though lions are kings, they are not separate from or superior to the natural order. They are part of it. This philosophy reflects Mufasa's wisdom as both a king and a father. It shows that leadership is not about taking whatever one wants, but about understanding responsibility and one's place within a greater system. For Simba, the circle of life becomes a lesson in perspective. He is not just the center of the world, but a steward of it. This teaching contrasts sharply with Scar's worldview, which is rooted in greed and exploitation. Scar sees the circle of life as an obstacle to his desires, while Mufasa sees it as the foundation of harmony. The circle of life is also symbolic on a broader level. It reflects real-world ecological principles, teaching audiences about interdependence and respect for the environment. It also serves as a metaphor for human life, suggesting that every individual has a role to play in society and that our actions have consequences beyond ourselves. Mufasa embodies this philosophy through his reign, always ensuring that balance is maintained in the Pride Lands. He does not abuse his power, but uses it to safeguard the delicate relationships that sustain life. Spiritually, the circle of life transcends even Mufasa's death. His passing is not the end, but part of the cycle, as his spirit continues to guide Simba and live on in the stars. This reinforces the idea that life is eternal, not because individuals live forever, but because their influence, wisdom, and love endure through others. Through the circle of life, Mufasa teaches one of the most enduring lessons of the story, that true greatness comes not from domination, but from understanding and respecting the interconnectedness of all living things. Perfect thumbs up, let's go with paragraph 8, 400 words, about the symbolism of Mufasa's character. Paragraph 8. The symbolism of Mufasa's character. Mufasa is more than a lion king within the story. He is a powerful symbol that carries layers of meaning for the audience. See, at the most basic level, he represents the archetype of the noble ruler, the just and wise king who governs not through fear, but through fairness and compassion. This archetype is common in mythology and literature, where kings often embody order, stability, and the divine right to rule.
Mufasa fits this tradition, standing as the guardian of balance and justice in the Pride Lands. His physical majesty, deep voice, and calm authority all reinforce his symbolic status as a figure larger than life. On a deeper level, Mufasa symbolizes fatherhood and guidance. His interactions with Simba are not only narrative moments, but also universal lessons about responsibility, bravery, and morality. Audiences across cultures connect with him because he embodies the ideal parent, protective yet firm, loving yet wise. His death resonates so strongly because it mirrors the universal human experience of losing a guiding figure. For Simba, and by extension the audience, Mufasa's spirit continues to live on as a moral compass, showing how parental influence shapes identity long after the parent is gone. Mufasa also symbolizes the natural order and the spiritual connection between life and death. Through the circle of life, he becomes a representation of how every being is tied to something greater than themselves. His presence in the sky after death, speaking to Simba, elevates him into a mythological figure, almost like a god or ancestral spirit guiding the living. This symbolism reinforces the theme that leadership and wisdom transcend physical existence. They live on through legacy, memory, and the values passed down to the next generation. Culturally, Mufasa represents hope, integrity, and moral clarity in a world often clouded by corruption or selfish ambition. He is contrasted with Scar, whose symbolism lies in chaos, greed, and imbalance. Together, they form a symbolic duality, light and darkness, order and disorderousness and selfishness. This duality is what gives The Lion King its universal appeal. It is not just the story of lions, but a timeless allegory about leadership, morality, and the struggles of human society. Ultimately, Mufasa is not merely a character, but an enduring symbol of what it means to live with honor, lead with compassion, and leave behind a legacy that guides future generations. His symbolism continues to resonate decades after his creation, making him one of Disney's most meaningful figures. Alright, thumbs up. Let's continue with paragraph 9, 400 words, on Mufasa's leadership style, justice versus fear. Paragraph 9. Mufasa's leadership style, justice versus fire. One of the most striking aspects of Mufasa's reign as king is his leadership style, which stands in stark contrast to Scar's approach. Mufasa governs through justice, fairness, and compassion, while Scar relies on manipulation, intimidation, and fear. This contrast is not just a narrative device, but also a lesson in the philosophy of leadership itself. Mufasa understands that true authority is not about forcing others into submission, but about earning their respect and trust. The animals of the Pride Lands bow to him not because they fear punishment, but because they recognize his fairness and wisdom. In every decision, Mufasa considers the balance of life, ensuring that the circle of life is respected and that harmony is preserved. His leadership style is deeply relational. Mufasa takes time to connect with those under his care, whether it's teaching Simba, acknowledging the loyalty of Zazu, or showing respect to the herds and other animals of the Pride Lands. He leads by example, demonstrating that a true king must serve his kingdom rather than exploit it. This is why his reign is remembered as prosperous and peaceful. In moments of conflict, he is decisive and firm, but his firmness is never cruel. It is measured, rooted in justice. For example, when Simba ventures into the elephant graveyard, Mufasa intervenes with authority, but instead of punishing Simba out of anger, he uses the event to teach him about bravery, responsibility, and boundaries. This shows his ability to transform discipline into guidance, a hallmark of effective and compassionate leadership. In contrast, Scar's leadership is built entirely on fear.
When he takes the throne after Mufasa's death, the Pride Lands fall into ruin, symbolizing what happens when fear replaces justice as the foundation of rule. Scar demands loyalty through threats and force, but loyalty born of fear is fragile and short-lived. Mufasa, on the other hand, cultivates genuine loyalty that lasts beyond his lifetime, as shown by how the pride and even the land itself thrive under his influence and memory. This distinction between ruling by justice and ruling by fear makes Mufasa an enduring model of leadership in literature and film. He represents the idea that true power comes not from dominance but from responsibility. His reign teaches that justice creates stability, while fear breeds destruction. In this way, Mufasa's leadership is not only central to The Lion King, but also serves as a timeless lesson for audiences about what makes a leader truly great. Great thumbs up. Let's move to paragraph 10, 400 words. About Mufasa's teaching moments with Simba, untold. Paragraph 10. Mufasa's teaching moments with Simba. One of the most memorable aspects of Mufasa's character is the way he educates Simba through small but powerful lessons. Unlike rulers who simply hand down orders, Mufasa believes in shaping his son's character with wisdom, patience, and real-world experiences. Each of their interactions in The Lion King carries an underlying moral lesson that prepares Simba for his future role as king. These teaching moments are not only crucial to Simba's personal growth, but also serve as life lessons for the audience, reinforcing Mufasa's role as both father and mentor. The first major teaching moment comes when Mufasa introduces Simba to the kingdom from atop Pride Rock. He explains that everything the light touches is our kingdom, but quickly balances this with the idea that being king is not about ownership. It is about responsibility. By showing Simba the vast expanse of the Pride Lands, Mufasa instills in him a sense of awe and duty, teaching him that power comes with accountability. This lesson is universal, reminding us that leadership is about stewardship, not selfishness. Another vital lesson comes after Simba's reckless adventure into the elephant graveyard. Instead of punishing Simba harshly, Mufasa takes the opportunity to explain the true meaning of bravery. He tells Simba that being brave does not mean seeking out danger, but understanding when to face fear and when to avoid unnecessary risks. This distinction helps Simba understand that courage is rooted in wisdom, not recklessness. Mufasa's calm and thoughtful approach in this moment demonstrates his ability to turn mistakes into valuable learning experiences rather than moments of shame. Perhaps the most profound teaching moment occurs during the nighttime scene under the stars. Mufasa tells Simba that the great kings of the past looked down from the heavens and that he too will one day join them. This lesson introduces the spiritual dimension of leadership, showing Simba that being king is part of a legacy that stretches beyond one's lifetime. It also foreshadows the idea that Mufasa's guidance will continue even after his death. This teaching stays with Simba throughout his journey, reminding him that leadership is both an earthly duty and a spiritual inheritance. Through these moments, Mufasa demonstrates that the role of a father extends far beyond protection. It involves preparing a child for the challenges of life. His teachings shape Simba's character and remain with him long after Mufasa is gone, proving that the greatest lessons of a parent endure in the heart and spirit of a child.
The most heartbreaking and defining moment in The Lion King is the betrayal and death of Mufasa. Up until this point, Mufasa is presented as invincible, a king of unmatched strength, wisdom and authority. Yet his downfall comes not from an external enemy, but from the person he should have been able to trust most, his own brother, Scar.
This betrayal elevates the tragedy of Mufasa's death from a mere plot twist to a deeply emotional turning point that resonates with audiences worldwide. It is not just the death of a king, but the collapse of trust, family, and the natural order. Scar's plan is carefully calculated, exploiting Simba's innocence and Mufasa's protective nature. By luring Simba into the gorge and engineering the wildebeest stampede, Scar creates a scenario where Mufasa must put his life on the line to save his son. This manipulation reveals the depth of Scar's cruelty. He weaponizes Mufasa's love for Simba against him. The scene is emotionally devastating because it shows that Mufasa's greatest strength, his devotion as a father, becomes the vulnerability that Scar uses to end his life. The betrayal reaches its peak in the unforgettable moment when Mufasa clings to the cliff, calling out for Scar's help. Audiences expect brotherhood to prevail, but instead, Scar delivers the chilling words, "Long live the king," before casting Mufasa into the stampede below. This act is not just murder, it is symbolic fratricide, the ultimate violation of family bonds and the destruction of justice itself. The shock of this betrayal is intensified because Mufasa had always treated Scar with a measure of respect and dignity, never anticipating such treachery. Mufasa's death is one of the most powerful and emotional scenes in Disney history because it represents the loss of everything he stood for: love, leadership, and balance in the circle of life. For Simba, the tragedy is compounded by guilt, as Scar convinces him that he is responsible for his father's death. This psychological manipulation adds another layer of betrayal, turning Simba's grief into shame and forcing him into exile. On a symbolic level, Mufasa's death represents the triumph of chaos over order, at least temporarily. Scar's betrayal throws the Pride Lands into ruin, demonstrating how the absence of justice leads to destruction. Yet even in death, Mufasa's legacy endures. His fall marks not the end of his influence, but the beginning of Simba's journey to carry forward his father's teachings. The tragedy of Mufasa's betrayal is therefore not only the story's darkest moment, but also the catalyst for its ultimate redemption. Mufasa's death is not only the most pivotal moment in The Lion King, but also one of the most iconic and emotional scenes in all of cinema. It is a sequence that has left audiences in tears for decades, not just because of the tragedy itself, but because of how it is presented. The scene is carefully crafted to evoke maximum emotional weight, combining music, visuals, and character dynamics to create a lasting memory that transcends age or culture. For many viewers, this was the first moment in an animated film where they confronted the raw emotions of loss, grief, and betrayal on such a profound scale. The impact of this scene is amplified by the bond previously established between Mufasa and Simba. Audiences had seen Mufasa as a strong, protective father, someone larger than life, almost invincible. To watch him fall to his death, betrayed by his own brother, is shocking because it shatters the illusion of safety both Simba and the audience felt. The emotional devastation deepens in the moments afterward, when Simba finds his father's lifeless body. His desperate attempts to wake Mufasa, nudging him, crying and pleading, are among the most heart-wrenching moments in animation history. The innocence of a child unable to accept the death of a parent resonates universally, making the scene unforgettable. For adults, the scene carries an added layer of weight. It is not just about a lion losing his father, but about the universal human experience of losing a guiding figure. Mufasa's death forces viewers to confront the reality that even the strongest, wisest, and most beloved figures are mortal. The film does not sugarcoat this truth. Instead, it presents death as a painful but inevitable part of life, tying back to the circle of life. This bold storytelling choice set The Lion King apart from many other animated films of its time, which often avoided dealing with death so directly. Culturally, Mufasa's death has become one of the most referenced and remembered moments in film. It is often used as an example of how children's movies can carry deep emotional and philosophical weight. Its lasting impact lies in its ability to evoke empathy, teaching children about grief and teaching adults about the value of legacy. Ultimately, the scene does more than create sadness. It reinforces the importance of Mufasa's teachings, which live on through Simba. His death is iconic not only because of its tragedy, but because it gives meaning to the story's resolution. the rise of Simba and the restoration of balance. After Mufasa's death, Simba's entire life trajectory is defined by the memory of his father. Scar's manipulation forces Simba into exile, burdened with guilt and shame. However, even in his darkest moments, Mufasa's memory lingers within him, silently shaping his identity and choices. Simba initially runs away from responsibility, embracing a carefree life with Timon and Pumbaa, but this avoidance is only temporary. Deep down, the teachings of his father remain alive, creating an inner conflict between the guilt instilled by Scar and the wisdom Mufasa had given him. This tension becomes the core of Simba's journey of growth. Simba's memories of Mufasa both a source of pain and strength. On one hand, recalling Mufasa reminds Simba of his failure and the false belief that he caused his father's death. On the other hand, those same memories remind him of the lessons Mufasa taught about responsibility, bravery, and leadership. This duality shows how memories of loved ones can be both burdensome and inspirational. Simba's path to reclaiming the throne is essentially a process of reconciling with his father's memory, transforming guilt into motivation and grief into strength. The turning point comes when Rafiki reminds Simba that Mufasa still lives within him. In one of the film's most powerful moments, Mufasa appears as a vision in the night sky, telling Simba, "Remember who you are." This encounter transforms Simba's perspective. He realizes that his father's death, though tragic, was not his fault, and that his true responsibility is to carry forward Mufasa's legacy. This moment illustrates how memory can serve as a bridge between past and present, guiding individuals toward their future. Mufasa's influence ultimately empowers Simba to return to the Pride Lands and confront Scar. The bravery he displays in the final battle is not just his own, it is rooted in the lessons, love, and wisdom passed down by his father. Even though Mufasa is physically absent, his presence is felt in Simba's actions and decisions. He lives on through Simba's courage, compassion, and commitment to justice. In essence, Mufasa's memory is not just a lingering shadow, but the very foundation of Simba's growth. It teaches that even when loved ones are gone, their values and teachings continue to shape us. For Simba, remembering Mufasa is not about clinging to the past, but about honoring it by living out its lessons. This transformation from grief to empowerment defines Simba's hero's journey and ensures that Mufasa's legacy endures through his son. One of the most powerful and memorable moments in The Lion King is Mufasa's spiritual reappearance to Simba in the night sky. Even after death, Mufasa's wisdom continues to guide. His spiritual reappearance to Simba is not about giving orders, but about reminding his son of what he already knows, his identity, his responsibilities, and his place in the circle of life. This shows that Mufasa's lessons were never meant to control Simba, but to empower him to make his own choices with clarity and courage. In this way, Mufasa's wisdom transcends time and space, existing as a guiding force that outlives his physical presence. For audiences, Mufasa's wisdom serves as a source of inspiration. His teachings about life, responsibility, and leadership resonate far beyond the world of the Pride Lands. He embodies the archetype of the wise elder or mentor, a figure who provides guidance that remains relevant across generations. Ultimately, Mufasa's wisdom is not just for Simba, it is for all who watch the story, reminding us of the importance of courage, humility, and responsibility in our own lives. Mufasa's life is filled with morals and lessons that extend far beyond the Pride Lands, offering universal truths applicable to leadership, family, and personal growth. His character is constructed not just as a king, but as a moral compass whose every action embodies responsibility, love, and justice. One of the key lessons from Mufasa's life is that power should never be abused. Unlike Scar, who views power as a means of control and self-indulgence, Mufasa sees leadership as a duty of service. His reign reflects balance and fairness, teaching us that authority is meaningful only when it is used for the welfare of others. Another important lesson is the value of responsibility. From his conversations with Simba, Mufasa makes it clear that being king, or even just growing up, requires accepting the consequences of one's actions. He stresses that every choice affects not just the individual but also the broader community. This moral resonates strongly in real life, where personal responsibility plays a vital role in building trust, respect, and stability. Through Mufasa, the story highlights that shirking responsibility, as Simba temporarily does, only leads to chaos, while embracing it restores balance and harmony. Mufasa also teaches the importance of humility and respect for life. His lesson on the circle of life demonstrates that no creature is above another, regardless of strength or status. This challenges the idea of dominance and instead emphasizes coexistence. For leaders, this becomes a reminder that compassion and empathy are as essential as strength and authority. For individuals, it reflects the importance of valuing others and recognizing the interconnectedness of life. One of the most personal morals from Mufasa's life is the role of courage. He demonstrates that true bravery is not about fearlessness, but about confronting challenges with wisdom and responsibility. His rescue of Simba in the gorge shows that courage also involves sacrifice and selflessness, even to the point of giving one's life. This moral is especially powerful because it contrasts sharply with Scar's cowardice, underscoring the difference between a noble king and a selfish usurper. Ultimately, the lessons from Mufasa's life are timeless. They remind us that greatness is not measured by how much power one has, but by how that power is used. That responsibility is essential for growth, that humility brings balance, and that true courage comes from love and sacrifice. Through his actions, Mufasa becomes more than just a character in a film. He becomes a teacher whose morals inspire generations, encouraging us to lead with integrity, compassion, and strength. Mufasa's character in The Lion King reaches its most powerful expression in his sacrifice, which symbolizes not just the role of a king, but also the depth of fatherhood. His death in the wildebeest stampede is not only a dramatic turning point in the story, but also a profound representation of a parent's love. When Simba is trapped in the gorge, Mufasa does not hesitate for even a moment. He risks his life, plunging into chaos to save his son. This act of selflessness embodies the essence of fatherhood, the instinct to protect, guide, and if necessary, sacrifice everything for the well-being of one's child. The tragedy of Mufasa's death is heightened by the betrayal behind it. Scar's deliberate act of throwing Mufasa to his death reveals the stark contrast between two brothers, one driven by selfish ambition and the other defined by duty and love. Yet even in his death, Mufasa becomes larger than life. His sacrifice serves as the ultimate lesson for Simba, though it takes years for Simba to fully understand it. The memory of his father's courage and devotion becomes the foundation on which Simba eventually builds his own identity as king. Symbolically, Mufasa's sacrifice illustrates the eternal theme of parental protection and the passing of wisdom from one generation to the next. In many cultures and stories, fathers are depicted as figures who provide both guidance and security, sometimes even laying down their lives for their children. Mufasa embodies this archetype fully. He does not simply tell Simba about responsibility and courage. He demonstrates it through action, even unto death. His sacrifice shows that leadership and fatherhood are not about clinging to power or privilege, but about ensuring that others, especially the next generation, are safe, prepared, and able to thrive. For the audience, this scene resonates deeply because it reflects real human emotions and experiences. Many people can relate to the idea of parents sacrificing for their children, whether in small daily acts or in extraordinary ways. Mufasa's death reminds us of the love, guidance, and protection parents provide, often at great personal cost. It also highlights the pain of loss, showing how the absence of a loved one can leave a lasting void. Yet it is through this sacrifice that Simba grows, learns, and eventually fulfills his destiny. Ultimately, Mufasa's sacrifice transcends the boundaries of the film's narrative. It becomes a universal symbol of fatherhood, of love that is protective, enduring, and selfless. Through his actions, Mufasa demonstrates that the true measure of a father lies not in what he demands from his children, but in what he is willing to give up for them. The relationship between Mufasa and Scar forms the moral backbone of The Lion King, presenting one of the clearest contrasts between good and evil in storytelling. Mufasa and Scar are not just brothers, they are symbolic opposites. Mufasa embodies nobility, responsibility, and justice, while Scar represents jealousy, deceit, and selfish ambition. This contrast elevates the story beyond a simple tale of succession into a powerful exploration of morality, leadership, and human nature. Mufasa is portrayed as a king who leads with fairness and compassion. His decisions are rooted in maintaining balance and protecting all creatures within the circle of life. He views power not as a privilege, but as a responsibility, understanding that his role as king is to serve, not dominate. Scar, on the other hand, views leadership as an opportunity for control and personal gratification. His jealousy of Mufasa blinds him to wisdom, and his manipulation of Simba demonstrates how he uses lies and fear to achieve his goals. Where Mufasa unites, Scar divides. Where Mufasa uplifts, Scar destroys. The conflict between the two brothers also represents the eternal battle between light and darkness. Mufasa, often associated with bright, open landscapes, sunrise, and powerful yet calming imagery, symbolizes hope and order. Scar, in contrast, is tied to shadows, caves, and barren lands, reflecting corruption, secrecy, and decay. Their personalities are written to mirror these visuals. Mufasa speaks with confidence and authority, while Scar's words drip with sarcasm, bitterness, and deceit. The stark difference highlights how leadership can either nurture or destroy, depending on the values of the one in power. Narratively, the tension between Mufasa and Scar also demonstrates how evil often seeks to undermine good, not through strength, but through betrayal and cunning. Scar could never match Mufasa's physical strength or moral authority, so he resorts to trickery and cowardice. This dynamic illustrates an important lesson. Evil may temporarily succeed through lies and manipulation, but it cannot build or sustain harmony. Scar's reign, though achieved through treachery, quickly turns the Pride Lands into a wasteland, showing that selfish power inevitably leads to ruin. Ultimately, the contrast between Mufasa and Scar does more than drive the story. It reinforces the timeless theme that good leadership is rooted in wisdom, justice, and sacrifice, while corrupt leadership thrives only on fear and selfishness. Their opposition ensures that Mufasa's virtues shine even brighter, making his legacy an eternal counter to Scar's destructive greed. Mufasa's influence does not end with his death. In fact, his legacy becomes the central driving force behind Simba's transformation. After Mufasa's tragic fall, Simba is consumed by guilt, manipulated into believing he was responsible for his father's death. This emotional burden drives him into exile, where he attempts to forget his past. Yet, even in absence, Mufasa's wisdom lingers. The teachings he gave Simba, about responsibility, courage, and the circle of life, remain in his heart, waiting to resurface when Simba is ready. This reflects a powerful truth. The impact of a good mentor or parent often extends far beyond their physical presence. Mufasa's true legacy is revealed during Simba's pivotal encounter with Rafiki and the vision of his father in the night sky. In one of the most iconic scenes, Mufasa appears among the stars to remind Simba of who he is and what his destiny must be. The words, "Remember who you are," strike at the core of Simba's struggle, reigniting his sense of identity and duty. This scene symbolizes the way parental guidance can live on in memory, conscience, and inner strength, even when the parent is no longer alive. Simba's eventual return to the Pride Lands and his decision to confront Scar directly reflect how Mufasa's teachings finally take root. Instead of running from his past, Simba embraces it, realizing that true leadership requires courage, accountability, and sacrifice, the very qualities his father embodied. Mufasa's legacy is thus fulfilled through Simba, as he reclaims the throne not for personal power, but to restore balance and justice to the Pride Lands. From a broader perspective, Mufasa's legacy demonstrates the enduring power of moral influence. A person's values and actions can inspire future generations, shaping lives even after death. For Simba, Mufasa is not just a father but a guiding light, reminding him that greatness comes from service and responsibility. In this way, Mufasa continues to live through Simba's choices, ensuring that his wisdom shapes the kingdom long after his physical presence has faded. Mufasa's story, though brief in terms of screen time, resonates with audiences as one of the most profound portrayals of leadership, sacrifice, and fatherhood in storytelling. His presence in The Lion King is more than just that of a king. He is the moral compass, the guiding voice, and the eternal example of what it means to live with integrity. Through his wisdom, he teaches lessons about responsibility, humility, and respect for the balance of life. Through his actions, he demonstrates courage, compassion, and the ultimate selflessness of sacrifice. And through his legacy, he continues to inspire Simba and, by extension, viewers around the world. The reason Mufasa remains such an iconic figure is that his character transcends the film itself. He represents the universal ideals of good leadership, justice, fairness, and service, as well as the timeless truths of parenthood, where love often means sacrifice.
Mufasa stands as one of the most powerful depictions of fatherhood in modern storytelling. Unlike many fictional fathers who are distant, harsh, or absent, Mufasa embodies the perfect balance of authority and tenderness. He disciplines Simba when necessary, as seen when he scolds him for recklessly entering the elephant graveyard, yet his tone quickly shifts to one of teaching rather than punishment. This reflects the ideal model of a father, someone who corrects mistakes without crushing the child's spirit. In Mufasa's relationship with Simba, audiences witness the core values of fatherhood: guidance, protection, patience, and unconditional love. His lessons are not limited to the throne or kingship. They extend to personal responsibility, respect for life, and humility. Mufasa shows that true fatherhood is not about control, but about preparing children to become wise, responsible adults who can one day carry forward the family's values. Central to Mufasa's philosophy is his explanation of the circle of life, a teaching that becomes the thematic foundation of the film. He explains to Simba that while lions may be powerful predators, they are not exempt from the natural balance. When they die, their bodies nourish the earth, which in turn sustains the grass, which then feeds the antelope. This cycle emphasizes that even the mightiest creatures are part of a larger system bound by humility and respect for nature. By teaching Simba this concept, Mufasa introduces him to an ecological and spiritual worldview that values harmony over domination. The circle of life also symbolizes the continuity of generations, showing that life, death, and rebirth are all interconnected. Mufasa's belief in this principle elevates him from being just a king to a philosopher, one who recognizes that leadership is about sustaining balance rather than exerting unchecked power. The leadership contrast between Mufasa and Scar is not just personal, it is philosophical. Mufasa governs through trust, fairness, and responsibility. He delegates authority to figures like Zazu and builds alliances with other animals, ensuring the Pride Lands flourish. Scar, in contrast, rules through fear, manipulation, and selfishness. Where Mufasa's reign is marked by abundance and prosperity, Scar's is marked by famine and desolation. This comparison highlights a universal truth about leadership: selfish rulers bring ruin, while selfless leaders inspire growth. Mufasa's leadership style demonstrates that the strongest leaders are those who see themselves as servants of their people, not as masters. His model of governance remains relevant to real-world politics, business, and community leadership, making his character a timeless study in ethical authority. Mufasa's death is not only heartbreaking because of the act itself, but because of the betrayal behind it. Scar's treachery strikes a deeper emotional chord since it comes from his own brother. Betrayal from within the family is among the most painful human experiences, and this is why Mufasa's death resonates so profoundly with audiences. Thematically, Scar's betrayal symbolizes how jealousy and resentment can corrode even the strongest family bonds. For Simba, this act becomes a lifelong wound, one that defines his struggles with guilt, identity, and trust. The tragedy also highlights a powerful lesson. Evil often disguises itself in familiarity, and betrayal from those closest to us is sometimes more destructive than attacks from strangers. Mufasa's fate reminds us that trust, though essential in life, carries risks, but it is also the foundation of love and leadership. Narratively, Mufasa's death serves as the catalyst for Simba's coming-of-age journey. Without this devastating loss, Simba would never have been forced to confront fear, guilt, and responsibility. In mythology and storytelling, the death of a mentor or father figure is often a rite of passage, symbolizing the moment when the hero must step out of childhood and embrace independence. For Simba, Mufasa's fall pushes him into exile, stripping away his sense of security, but planting the seeds of eventual growth. This narrative device reflects a universal truth: Growth often requires loss, and sometimes the absence of guidance forces individuals to discover their inner strength. While painful, Mufasa's death is what transforms Simba from a playful cub into a true king. One cannot discuss Mufasa without acknowledging the iconic voice behind him. James Earl Jones's deep, commanding, yet gentle voice brought Mufasa to life in a way that transcended animation. His delivery of lines such as "everything the light touches is our kingdom" or "a remember who you are" is in almost biblical weight, elevating Mufasa into a figure of timeless wisdom. The choice of Jones's voice reinforced Mufasa's identity as both a king and father, balancing authority with compassion. Even decades later, his voice remains instantly recognizable and inseparable from the character. This highlights the importance of performance in storytelling. While Mufasa's dialogue is powerful on paper, it is Jones's delivery that turns those words into immortal lessons etched into popular culture. Simba's struggles after Mufasa's death are deeply tied to his father's memory. On one hand, Mufasa represents a standard of greatness that Simba feels he cannot live up to. On the other, his loss creates a void that Simba desperately tries to escape from. Simba's adoption of Hakuna Matata with Timon and Pumbaa is essentially an avoidance of his father's legacy. He runs from the pain of responsibility by embracing carefree living. Yet, no matter how hard he tries, Simba cannot escape Mufasa's presence. His father's words echo in his conscience, and his memory pulls him back to his true identity. This internal conflict reflects how the influence of a parent can be both inspiring and overwhelming, shaping a child's sense of self even in absence. In literary terms, Mufasa represents the archetype of the wise king and a mentor. His character echoes mythological figures such as Zeus, Odin, or even biblical patriarchs, who embody wisdom, authority, and protection. Mufasa's presence within The Lion King elevates the story into a mythic narrative, where the king's death is not just a plot point but a symbolic event. He is larger than life, not only because of his strength, but because of the values he represents. By portraying Mufasa in this archetypal way, Disney created a character who resonates across cultures and generations. Viewers see in him the universal image of the noble father, the fallen king, and the eternal guide, ensuring his story carries a timeless mythological weight. One of the most emotional and spiritual moments in the film is Mufasa's appearance in the clouds to speak with Simba. This vision is not just a dramatic device, but a symbolic reunion between the past and the present. Mufasa's message, "You have forgotten who you are, and so have forgotten me," reminds Simba and the audience that identity is tied to legacy and responsibility. The scene captures the spiritual belief that ancestors remain with us, guiding and watching over their descendants. For Simba, this moment is transformative, reigniting his courage and sense of destiny. For viewers, it represents the enduring presence of loved ones even after death. Mufasa's return from the heavens turns the story into a spiritual journey, where the wisdom of the past lights the path for the future. Though Mufasa exists within the fictional world of The Lion King, his lessons extend far beyond the Pride Lands. His teachings about responsibility, balance, and legacy are universally applicable. Parents see in him a model of nurturing yet disciplined fatherhood. Leaders find in him an example of just governance. Children learn from him the values of respect, courage, and humility. This universality is what makes Mufasa more than just a character. He is a cultural icon. His legacy continues in sequels, adaptations, and now the upcoming prequel Mufasa, The Lion King, proving that his influence is timeless. Whether in classrooms, leadership seminars, or family discussions, Mufasa's wisdom continues to inspire people to live with integrity and purpose. He is not just a Lion King, he is a symbol of eternal values that never fade. Of course. Here are 10 more long, detailed paragraphs about Mufasa from The Lion King, continuing without headings. Mufasa's character represents a rare combination of strength and gentleness that is seldom portrayed with such balance in storytelling. He is undeniably powerful, a lion who commands respect simply by his presence, yet his power never manifests as cruelty or dominance. Instead, it is tempered with empathy, fairness, and care for others. This duality makes him not only admirable but also relatable, as audiences see in him the idea that true greatness comes from restraint, compassion, and using power to protect rather than exploit. His greatness lies not just in his roar or his physical might, but in his ability to guide, teach, and inspire those around him, qualities that define him more as a leader than a mere ruler. In many ways, Mufasa embodies the values of wisdom that transcend time and culture. His lessons to Simba are deceptively simple, yet carry profound meanings about life, responsibility, and destiny. His ability to translate grand philosophical ideas, such as the circle of life, into words a young cub could understand reflects his role as both teacher and king. These teachings continue to resonate with audiences because they mirror real-life lessons about humility, respect for the natural order, and the understanding that all actions carry consequences. Mufasa's words echo not only within the narrative, but also in the hearts of viewers, making his wisdom enduring across generations. Another remarkable aspect of Mufasa's character is his relationship with his kingdom. Unlike Scar, who sees the throne as a tool for power and self-gratification, Mufasa sees kingship as a duty of service. He understands that being king does not mean taking from the land, but nurturing it so that all creatures can thrive. This philosophy creates harmony in the Pride Lands where animals of all kinds coexist peacefully. His leadership style reflects a deep-rooted sense of stewardship, teaching Simba, and by extension, the audience, that true leadership is about caring for those who depend on you, not exploiting them. The emotional depth of Mufasa's death is amplified because audiences have already seen his tenderness and strength as a father. His final moments, where he sacrifices himself to save Simba, encapsulate the essence of parenthood, the willingness to give everything, even one's life, to protect a child. This act of ultimate love cements his place not only in Simba's memory, but also in the audience's hearts. The tragedy resonates so deeply because viewers know that Simba has lost not just a father, but also a mentor, protector, and moral compass. Even after his death, Mufasa's influence persists throughout the story, proving that his legacy is eternal. Simba's journey back to becoming king is guided at every step by his father's memory, teachings, and spiritual presence. In many ways, Mufasa lives on through Simba's conscience, symbolizing how the wisdom of loved ones continues to guide us even after they are gone. His presence in the clouds reinforces the idea that parents and ancestors remain a part of who we are, shaping our choices and reminding us of who we can become. Mufasa's death also serves as a powerful commentary on the fragility of life and the inevitability of change. This broader perspective not only cements him as a just king, but also reflects a model of governance applicable to real-world societies. In our own lives, leaders often face the temptation of ruling with ego and pride, but Mufasa stands as the reminder that true power is not found in control, but in responsibility. By portraying such a character, Disney gave the world a figure who transcends animation and fiction, becoming instead an archetype of ethical leadership, one whose lessons echo across cultures, families, and communities. Mufasa's death scene is often remembered as one of the most heartbreaking moments in animated cinema. But what makes it profoundly powerful is not just the tragedy itself, it is the symbolic meaning behind it. His fall from the cliff at the hands of Scar represents the collapse of order, justice, and familial trust, plunging both the Pride Lands and Simba into chaos. The weight of the betrayal adds an even deeper emotional wound. A brother's hand is supposed to protect, not to kill, and Scar's act reveals the destructive potential of jealousy and resentment within families. For Simba, the trauma of watching his father die while believing it was his fault plants the seeds of self-doubt that haunt him throughout his exile. Yet Mufasa's death is not portrayed as the end of his influence. Instead, it becomes the beginning of Simba's journey, a painful yet necessary turning point that compels him to grow. In this way, Mufasa embodies the timeless mentor archetype whose death is required for the hero's transformation. Countless myths and stories, from ancient epics to modern tales, use this structure to show that greatness is born through loss. What makes Mufasa's case unique, however, is how his lessons continue to guide Simba even beyond the grave. Unlike many fictional mentors whose wisdom dies with them, Mufasa transcends mortality, remaining present through memory, spirit, and even the stars. His fall is heartbreaking, but it becomes the very foundation upon which Simba builds his strength and reclaim his destiny. The spiritual aspect of Mufasa's presence in Simba's life cannot be overstated. The iconic moment when Simba looks into the sky and sees Mufasa's image formed in the clouds is one of the most memorable in film history. Here, Mufasa's booming yet gentle voice reminds Simba, "Remember who you are." These words are not just encouragement, but a profound lesson in identity, legacy, and responsibility. In a world where many people lose themselves to fear, guilt, or distraction, Mufasa's message speaks universally. He teaches that our identity is not separate from where we come from. It is built upon the values, sacrifices, and guidance of those who came before us. This moment also represents a deeply spiritual truth, that our ancestors never truly leave us. Whether one interprets it through religion, spirituality, or psychology, the idea that the voices of those we love continue to echo in our conscience is one of the most comforting human beliefs. For Simba, this scene is the spark that reignites his courage and purpose, turning despair into determination. For audiences, it represents the way loved ones live on in memory, guiding us long after they are gone. Mufasa thus becomes more than a character. He becomes a universal symbol of how the past shapes the present and how love endures beyond death. One of the most remarkable qualities of Mufasa is how he balances authority with tenderness. Many cinematic fathers fall into extremes. Either they are harsh disciplinarians who inspire fear, or they are overly lenient, failing to prepare their children for real challenges. Mufasa, however, embodies a rare equilibrium. When Simba disobeys him and ventures into the elephant graveyard, Mufasa rescues him with ferocity, showing his strength as both protector and king. Yet afterward, instead of punishing Simba with cruelty, he transforms the moment into a teaching opportunity. Sitting under the stars, he explains the delicate balance of life, humility, and power, and the responsibilities that come with being king. In this gentle yet firm approach, he provides a blueprint for real-world parenting. His philosophy reflects that love does not mean shielding children from consequences, but guiding them through lessons that prepare them for adulthood. This balance is why audiences of all ages resonate with Mufasa. Parents see a model of wise authority, while children see a father who loves unconditionally yet expects responsibility. In modern society, where many struggle with defining fatherhood amid changing cultural dynamics, Mufasa remains a timeless image of what it means to nurture without weakening and to discipline without cruelty. Mufasa's leadership extends beyond his family and into the entire Pride Lands, making him an emblem of just governance. He is not portrayed as a king who rules with an iron paw, but as one who governs by ensuring that every creature has its place and dignity. His explanation of the circle of life reflects this philosophy perfectly. Lions may rule as predators, but they are also bound by the same natural order as all living beings. This recognition of balance and interconnectedness is a powerful lesson for humanity, where ecological destruction and selfish governance often lead to ruin. By showing respect for all life, Mufasa demonstrates that leadership is not about domination, but stewardship. This is further highlighted when contrasted with Scar's rule, which is marked by selfishness, exploitation, and destruction. While Mufasa's reign is filled with prosperity and abundance, Scar's leads to famine and despair, showing that the character of a ruler directly determines the fate of the land. This dichotomy resonates beyond the film, speaking to political and social realities where leaders driven by greed cause suffering, while those who lead with responsibility bring growth and harmony. Mufasa thus becomes more than a character. He becomes a metaphor for the consequences of leadership, reminding us that the well-being of the people is inseparable from the integrity of their ruler. The emotional power of Mufasa also lies in how his memory shapes Simba's journey of self-discovery. For much of the film, Simba struggles with guilt and fear, haunted by the belief that he caused his father's death. This guilt drives him into exile, where he embraces the carefree philosophy of Hakuna Matata, a way of life that allows him to escape responsibility but also prevents him from embracing his true identity. Mufasa's presence, though absent in body, never leaves Simba's heart. His words, his teachings, and his example continue to echo within Simba, reminding him that he cannot run forever. This dynamic reflects the reality of how parents, mentors, and loved ones continue to influence our choices even after they are gone. Simba's eventual return to the Pride Lands is not just a physical homecoming, but a spiritual reconnection with his father's legacy. He realizes that he cannot escape who he is because who he is was shaped by Mufasa. The story reminds us that identity is not only a matter of personal choice, but also of honoring the responsibilities and legacies handed down by those who came before us. Mufasa also holds significance as a cultural icon beyond the confines of The Lion King. His character has been analyzed in leadership seminars, parenting discussions, and even theological reflections. Many educators and leaders have used his teachings as metaphors for responsible governance, ethical living, and balanced parenting. His voice, immortalized by James Earl Jones, has become synonymous with wisdom and authority, making his lines some of the most quoted in film history. What makes Mufasa's impact so enduring is that his lessons are not tied to a single culture, religion, or philosophy. Whether one approaches him as a father, a king, or a mythic archetype, his teachings about responsibility, humility, and respect for life resonate universally. He represents the best of what humanity longs for in leaders and parents alike: strength tempered with compassion, authority balanced with humility, and power rooted in responsibility. This universality ensures that Mufasa will remain relevant across generations, transcending the boundaries of film to become a touchstone of wisdom in popular culture. The tragedy of Scar's betrayal also carries an important lesson about the dangers of envy and ambition unchecked by morality. Scar's resentment of Mufasa is rooted not in injustice but in jealousy, a corrosive force that blinds him to family loyalty and the greater good. His treachery highlights the destructive power of envy when it festers without resolution. For audiences, the story becomes a warning that jealousy not only destroys relationships but can also destabilize entire communities. Scar's downfall is not merely a narrative device but a moral lesson. When ambition is driven by selfishness rather than responsibility, it leads to ruin. In contrast, Mufasa's reign shows that ambition tempered by duty creates prosperity and peace. The juxtaposition of the two brothers underscores a truth that extends far beyond the Pride Lands. Leadership without morality is destructive, but leadership with integrity builds legacies. Through this lens, Mufasa becomes not just a character but a living metaphor for ethical ambition, one who shows us that greatness is not about taking power but about serving with honor. Another profound layer to Mufasa's character is his mythological resonance. He embodies the archetype of the wise king and the mentor, roles that have appeared in mythologies across cultures. His guidance to Simba echoes the role of Zeus to heroes in Greek mythology, Odin to Norse legends, and even biblical patriarchs who passed wisdom to future generations. In this sense, Mufasa elevates the Lion King beyond a simple animated story into the realm of myth, where the narrative reflects timeless human struggles: the loss of a father, the journey of a son, the battle between good and evil, and the eternal cycle of life and death. By embedding Mufasa with these archetypal qualities, Disney created a character who resonates not only with children, but with adults who recognize the mythic power beneath the story. This mythological dimension is what gives Mufasa a timeless quality, ensuring that his lessons and presence continue to be relevant across generations. Finally, Mufasa's legacy is immortalized not only through Simba, but also through the continued adaptations and stories that expand upon the Lion King universe. From the original film to sequels, stage adaptations, and the upcoming prequel Mufasa, The Lion King, his character remains central to the mythos. This ongoing presence shows that audiences are not ready to let go of him, because his wisdom and values are still needed in the world. In times of moral uncertainty, Mufasa represents a clear voice of truth, reminding us of responsibility, humility, and respect for the interconnectedness of life. His story is not just about the rise and fall of a king, but about the eternal influence of love, guidance, and integrity. In this way, Mufasa transcends the boundaries of fiction and becomes a symbol of values that humanity will always need. He reminds us that even when great leaders pass away, their influence continues to live on in those they touched, shaping the future through the legacy of the past.